Today, we're taking a trip down memory lane at some of our favorite retro tech from yesteryear. It's time for Unboxed Daily. Welcome to Unboxed Daily. I'm your host, Jason. And yes, you heard us right. Today, we're taking a little trip down memory lane to look at all of the tech we used to know and love back in the day. If you like what you see and you want to check out more, hit that subscribe button. And if you really love us, hit that bell as well. The first thing I want to do when I think about old school retro tech is think about how much I enjoyed playing all of the old video game systems I used to enjoy back in the 80s and 90s. And yes, if you do the math correctly, I'm super old. Nonetheless, it's a lot of fun to take a look at modern interpretations of old technology, like this Game Boy style case for the iPhone as shown off by Kevin Kenson.
The Case Console, a little case for your phone that brings the promise of offering a Game Boy experience on the back of your phone, or at least that's the idea with this design in the back, which is clearly based on the original Game Boy. So let's check it out. Yeah, so this is a lot simpler than what I was expecting at first, because I was thinking maybe it was like actually, doing all the pixels like a Game Boy would, but instead this is based on a little older tech where instead we just have these giant bricks that are each being turned off or on to make images that are kind of descriptive. I mean, it gives you the basic idea of what the game's about.
Now granted, that's not a full Game Boy experience. Those little blocks turning on and off remind me more of a Mr. Game & Watch. But it does give you that sense of nostalgia, and it's something portable that you can bring with you all throughout the day. Instead of trying to emulate an old experience, maybe you have the actual retro tech. For example, I still have my old school Super Nintendo, and sometimes I want to try to open it up and explore it, figure out how to make it better, not just adding a cartridge at a time, but having my whole game library available to me at any given time. Well, Linus from Linus Tech Tips has a great solution to that problem, even if it sits in a little bit of a legal gray area.
So whether you're using an 8-bit wireless controller or an original one, you just navigate the menu like this, and then what should I do?
Super Mario World's pretty easy.
Sure. Dad and I own Super Mario World. I don't know if I could legitimately say the same about everything we are scrolling through right now. Huh. Wow, that loaded really fast, hey? Okay.
Again, if you have a bunch of ROMs, you're not supposed to have them if you don't actually own the games. But it is kind of cool to know that you could load the entire Super Nintendo collection of games onto a single cartridge and have them available to play on your actual original SNES anytime you want. Maybe you're not so much into the whole old school tech thing. Maybe you prefer something that you really love, but you want it updated for the modern 4K era. If that's the case, you are going to love Age of Empires HD, which is a remastering of the original Age of Empires game made for specifically modern 4K computing. To check out more, let's turn it over to the guys at Game Ranks, who got to play a little bit with the game and can give you a better sense of what new updates you can expect.
It's all almost instant gratification and constant growing and killing and battling. Even the religious aspects of campaigning managed to have way more engagement than you'd expect. And despite the game being so old and not having much changes aside from a few small convenience tweaks here and there, it still feels good. Really good. It's almost refreshing to go back and play a game like this, to be honest. As a freaking huge Civilization fan, it feels nice to step down to something that I haven't played since I was a kid, and the only way to get a computer was at the local library. It also helps that it has a fresh coat of paint that is completely true to the original game art-wise.
Age of Empires, Civilization, and XCOM. 3 games I loved back in the day that are now updated for the modern era. Can you tell I'm in love? Oh, so good. Now, as much as I enjoy checking out old school tech that's been modernized or made available in modern experiences, there are some things from back in the day that we actually can't bring along for one reason or another. First thing that comes to mind for me, mini disc players. And if you were a fan of music like Mr. Mobile, you know that these were a great, portable, and high-fidelity way to listen to your music on the go before the existence of iPods.
So when teenage me first unboxed this contraption, I was stunned, not just at the compact footprint of the player itself, but by the discs that came alongside it. They were a third the size of a CD, but they offered the exact same capacity. They were protected by a plastic cartridge, so you could toss them carelessly into a backpack or shuffle them like cards when you really needed Moby to cure your natural blues. And best of all, they were recordable, so you could make your own mixes just like you could with a cassette.
You know, don't get me wrong, I still had a CD player back in the day, but mini discs were a great way to experience lots of great music in one sitting, a huge library of content available digitally, easily portable. Man, they just don't make it that way anymore. Oh wait, they do. And of course, with the advent of things like cloud computing and massive multi-terabyte hard drives, you know, it's important to remember that back in the day, you had to physically carry a disk with you pretty much anytime you wanted to bring a file from one place to another, particularly in the days before email. But you know, sometimes it was really hard. Back in the day, I had my original floppy disks with the whole 1.5 megabytes, and I needed something a little bit bigger to carry all the good stuff. Enter the iOmega zip drive, which was a huge revolutionary concept when it got released. Here are the folks over at Lazy Game Reviews to give us just a little bit more context around this sadly now deprecated technology.
This was a 3.5-inch floppy disk alternative of sorts, sometimes called a super floppy. It had 100 megabytes, but they went all the way up to 750 megabytes per disk or cartridge in 2002, which was the highest capacity model of these things. Now, they originally cost around $200 for the base drive bundle, like this parallel port one here, and a bit more for things like the SCSI versions, and then there were internal ones as well that used an IDE interface, among other things, and either way, a couple $100 or so, and then it was $20 per disc originally.
And admittedly, this wasn't perfect. If you went to somebody's house with a zip disk and they didn't have the proper zip disk drive, there's nothing you could do about it. You know, certainly this is well before we had USB thumb drives. But still, there was something really magical the first time that I knew that I could take hundreds of megabytes worth of information and deliver it to somebody and not have to think twice about it. And that's it for this look at retro technology from back in the day. Hope you enjoyed. If you like what you saw and you want to check out more, head on over to Unboxed.tv or look us up on the iOS store. In the meantime, I'll be back soon with more great videos from your favorite product reviewers and unboxers. I'm your host, Jason. Have a great day.